The recording is in progress. Okay, so it is my great pleasure to introduce Peter Fuller here tonight, who came in at the last minute and to save us after we had a last minute cancellation due to illness from Jen Gagnier, who hopefully will be able to book her for later in the season. Peter is, I just want to find my sheet, sorry about that. Oops. Oh, here we go. I have Peter's bio right here on this sheet. Sorry about that. Peter spent his early career as a musician and secondary school teacher in Belleville and Ottawa. He then ran a native plant nursery for 10 years in Belleville, Ontario. He volunteered for many years to the Prince Edward Point Bird Observatory and served on the board. He was involved with both the Prince Edward County and Quinte Field Naturalists and assisted with the creation of the South Shore Joint Initiative. A couple of years ago, he traded life in Eastern Ontario for Miami, Manitoba, which I believe is an oxymoron, where he helps his niece and family with an apple orchard and vegetable gardens and spends as much time as he can with his 3 grandnieces. He also does a lot of prairie birding. So I'm going to add my own comment to his bio. Peter is also one of the best birders I know, but also one of the most brilliant minds. He has a great wealth of knowledge, but is so humble about it, it takes a while to figure that out. He's also very funny, secretly extremely competitive, and very creative. He's been a tremendous support for PECFN throughout the years, donating numerous plants for us when we ran native plant sales and helping us a lot with our bio blitzes and biothons. He designed a website for us when we had to run our Maple Cross Bio Blitz virtually during COVID and still helped us, even from Miami, last year with our documents for the Macaulay Mountain BioBlitz. And once again, he's helping us now. Although I did run into a panic when I found out yesterday morning that Jen was going to have to postpone, I find it somewhat appropriate that Peter is giving his presentation on what I hope will be our last Zoom meeting for a while. I myself am really looking forward to meeting in person again, but I want to recognize that meeting virtually has also provided some unique benefits. One of the best ones is that we can have speakers present to us from far away, and also that we can have members come to meetings from afar as well. I'm really pleased to have Peter here tonight. Okay, Peter, so we'll hand it over to you. Would you like to share your screen?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Amy. Everybody can hear me?
Yes.
And we should be... going to this full screen there now?
Yes, it's all good. Okay, I'll mute now, Peter.
Okay, thank you, Amy. It's great to see you all. And, you know, as I think I told Amy, you really have to twist my arm to get me to talk about myself. But anyway, it's a pleasure to talk about this. I just got back a week and a half or so ago, and I think my body is kind of caught up to Miami time. This is, I wasn't really planning on doing a show with this, so there you probably noticed there's some big gaps in my presentation. I was traveling by myself, and there's lots of good scenery I didn't see because I was driving on the left-hand side with no shoulders through curvy mountain switchbacks. I didn't feel free to haul out my camera, and I couldn't take my eyes off the road some of the time. But anyway, I did try to, I used eBird and planned out an itinerary in which I could go around the South Island of New Zealand and hit as many birding spots and interesting ecological places as I could in the month. And as I found out, you know, I only just scratched the surface for that. So here's a map of the South Island, New Zealand. And as I said, I'm using some of the pictures I took. I had to decide whether to take my spotting scope or a big camera, and I ended up taking the scope, and I'm quite glad I did, as you'll see. So my pictures are just from one of my sort of small cameras, but I was able to get a number of things with it. The South Island of New Zealand, I checked it up. It's got, I think you can fit 150 Prince Edward counties into it, if you're thinking about the size of it. There's a big line of mountains down through the center where the Australian plate meets the Pacific plate. There's called the Southern Alps, and some of them are quite high. The west coast ends up being kind of rugged and quite wet. That's where all the moisture comes from. The eastern side has some drier, hilly areas, and then a few really flat coastal plains, which are a lot of glacial outflow. They have these big rivers that are big braided rivers, some of them, a mile or so wide. And then along the coast, lots of beaches and remains of, you can see on the map, remains of old volcanic activity. So some of the cities like Dunedin are built around old volcanic craters. So there's a lot of geology and a lot of habitats going on in a small space, and that's what made it attractive. Here's my routes. I landed in Christchurch, sort of in the middle here, and did a northern loop up around to the top and down through the mountains, and then a bit of a southern loop down to the bottom. And you can see actually there's big spaces that I never did get to. So there are birds still to see there. I started out along some of those river estuaries, and right away I could tell, well, there's lots of birds here, but it's difficult to see them. I'm really glad I brought my scope. It's hard to get around. You got to plan out your days with the tides, be able to see things. But this is where I started to get excited seeing shorebirds. I think I was a little bit late in the season. I went from February into March. A number of things that visit there weren't really around, but I still lots of things to see. I learned quickly I had to learn my cormorants, or shags as they get called. There are at least 6 species that I came across, and there are more. So this is a young pied shag, one of the bigger ones, just hanging out there in the estuary. These pied stilts were everywhere. There was water. They're a pretty common one, but I was hoping really to see the black stilts, which are quite a rare New Zealand endemic and only breed in one area. And I eventually wanted to see them. I did find on my first day, I found a hybrid between the two, which do show up from time to time in that estuary. Another specialty of New Zealand was these wrybills, a little shorebird that likes to live on those braided rivers. I think it's the only species to have a bill that twists to the right. And it's a very sort of curious one, and it ends up being, this is what it does. It goes and it pries up rocks and shells and eats the things that are underneath. So I was really hoping to see one. I saw one on the first day and I thought, oh, this is great. And as it turned out, that was the only one I ever saw on my whole trip. So very happy to come across it. There's things like this Australian swamp hen, similar to our coot or gallinule family. They're pretty common in all kinds of habitats, running across the road at the last minute and things like that. But another pretty bird in the, saw these in the coastal lagoons and estuaries where I went. In terms of land birds, New Zealand doesn't have a great diversity. And of course, a lot of the human activity has impacted that quite a bit. There's also been a lot of then imports from Europeans. This is a yellowhammer. So in fact, some of the most common songbirds that you just see around the fields or the agricultural fields are all imports, like house sparrows, chaffinches, these yellowhammers and things like that. So I was a little bit disappointed to sort of see the overwhelming, but I think the same sort of thing has gone on here in Canada. You think of starlings and house sparrows and things like that. Also in the estuary, I was looking for all this great native vegetation, and then same thing as North America. In some of the disturbed areas, you get California poppies, Queen Anne's lace, Canada thistle, things like that. But this is on the East Coast where there's a lot of agriculture. It's been disturbed, and habitat changed quite a bit. It does make the places colorful, but I thought, oh, this doesn't look all that New Zealand-y to me.
Exotic.
I went up the coast a bit. The mountains come right down to the ocean on the east side there, and went out before dawn on one of these little bit of a pelagic trip to see ocean birds, seabirds. It's a pretty good spot because there's a lot of food supplies there, so whales and dolphins and seabirds and everything show up. Especially good for seeing albatrosses, which is one of the target birds I was looking for. So yeah, this is the coastline. You don't have to go too far out from the shore. Mountains come right down. The road goes along the water here, and then the big recent earthquake they had, of course, that really messed up places that like this road. And we'll see some other results from that earthquake in a bit. So out on this boating trip, yes, right away, these wandering albatross, which are some of the biggest ones, they don't mind coming up to the boat. They're quite spectacular in their wing spread. And they're up close. You know, I think sometimes the older ones get quite white. Younger ones can have more coloring on them. But a very large wing spread. This is another one. This is a little bit smaller one. Salvin's albatross has a gray head and this sort of gray beak with a yellow outline, a little bit of an angry look. And similar to it are these white-capped albatross, similar sort of beak, but all white there. I think this is actually a little video. These ones wouldn't mind coming up to the boat. They would, they would put out a bit of fish guts and stuff for them at different stops. Also showed up was this royal albatross, another one of the really large ones. It's a bit different from the other ones. You can see there's a black line on his bill there. That's one way you can tell them apart. They're a little bit more wary, just kind of checking out the activity, but didn't really want to come up to all the frenzy around the boat. But, when they put out things, tempers flared and people weren't all that polite around the feeding. The big brown birds are giant petrels.
Oh, thanks.
They're sort of like turkey vultures of the ocean. They'll eat anything, clean up garbage and stuff. They got sort of a little bit of a naked head there. So this is around that same place. This is back on the coast, back on shore now. You can see from the last earthquake, a lot of the seafloor right along the coast there was uplifted, I think sometimes 1 to 2 meters. So you can now hike around this. This is at low tide. The tide does come on farther there. But you can get out and walk around a bit more now and see things like these white-faced herons, a little bit smaller than a great blue. They're pretty common in all habitats all around the island. This one was fluffing himself up. We got a good look at him, and then he's back to normal. But yeah, they're quite sleek birds. There are a lot of young birds around at this time because I was there at the end of the summer. This is a very common gull in New Zealand, although it's not that common elsewhere. Yeah, with the red bill, it's got the matching outfit. And about the size, I'd say, of our ring-billed gull and sort of the same behavior. Lots of young ones around, and who doesn't want a nice, warm, regurgitated snack, Nothing better on a nice afternoon. So yeah, the rocks around in different places are quite interesting. You get a lot of sedimentary stuff that's been uplifted around the coast, but then also a lot of volcanic activity. So a lot of different types of volcanic rock there. Yep, there were a number of these guys that kept showing up and posing here, so kept taking their picture. There's also a fur seal colony at that place, a lot of young ones hanging out on the rocks at this time of year. I guess they had been hunted to quite small numbers, the New Zealand fur seals, but they've made quite a comeback now that they've been protected. I saw a lot of them, lots of places around the coast. Kept going up the island. There's a few places where some Australian species show up. And so I looked on eBird, things that I want to see. So this hoary-headed grebe is actually an Australian species, but it does breed in a few places in New Zealand. So went out, it's got a little platform on the lake like the Frink Center, and just sort of stood there and see who came by. And this hoary-headed grebe came by. They're sort of about the same size, I would say, as our high-bill grebe. And a young one was there, so yes, they were breeding. Also got a good look at a little crake running around the platform. I got some pictures, but you can't really see where it is in the picture. They're a little bit smaller than our Virginia rail, but very much the same kind of behavior. In another lake nearby, they also have these great crested grebes, which are pretty spectacular, nice big birds, and they were breeding as well. So eBird was great for pinpointing places that I should visit so that, I didn't waste my time looking around vainly with my scope. Up in the, now right up at on the top end, there's a place called Picton where the ferry goes across to the North Island. I didn't go across. And of course, they had just had the big tropical storm before I arrived, so it didn't affect the South Island, but the ferry service was all backed up, and there were all these complaining tourists waiting around with their car. Anyway, so but up in the Sound, there are a lot of islands, and what they've done is they've turned some of them into sanctuaries, and this is sort of my first real look at, you know, what seemed to be real authentic New Zealand forest. I got quite captivated by these tree ferns. They use these islands as sanctuaries for a lot of species that have been impacted by imported predators, because of course New Zealand didn't have those kind of mammal predators. So when things like Australian possums or rats or mice got introduced as stoats to New Zealand, it really heavily impacted a lot of bird species and a lot of other creatures. So they're using these islands quite carefully. They've introduced these orange-fronted parakeets on this island. I don't have a picture of them, but we did see them here. And they do heavy trapping to get rid of all the predators, and then do some breeding and reintroduction of these species that almost have gone extinct. Now, a lot of species did go extinct, but it seems to me like they've got a real intensive program on, you know, replanting natives all over the place, native plants all over the place, and trying to protect species that are still there. Out in the Sound, there's another type of cormorant, these king shags, and I guess this is the only place in the world where they breed. They seem to be a stable population of, I guess maybe up to 1,000 of them. They're quite attractive. They've got these beautiful blue eyes with a yellow fleshy bit on their nose. So I went on a boat tour through the Sound and stopped where they do their afternoon sunning. You get also places like these great big salt marshes right on the coast with lagoons, you know, tidal lagoons. A lot of birds in them, but once again, I was really glad I took my scope to be able to figure out what all the little dots were. This lagoon is made up of this glasswort, a plant that's really tolerant of salt in the soil. Here's an Eurasian skylark, really common there. Once again, another import that has made itself at home in New Zealand. These are pied cormorants. I took a picture that there's a whole flock of them, young ones and adults. They were following around a school of fish, because every once in a while they would all disappear under the water and come up with things in their bills, and then move to another spot, and then all of a sudden a lot of activity. So it was fun to watch them. Then I headed across through the interior over towards the west coast, and this is Nelson Lakes National Park. Really reminded me of some interior BC, you know, with the big mountains and the long skinny lakes and lots of really nice hiking trails. The only thing about the New Zealand forest, it's mostly broadleaf, but you know, not deciduous. So it's evergreen broadleaf forest. So the canopies are quite thick, but that's where the birds are, so you don't see a lot. Gets quite dark down underneath, and it's you know, hard to take pictures of birds or things like that. And New Zealand birds don't seem to respond to fishing. I just got a couple of weird looks saying, you know, what are you doing? And I'm going to fly farther away. So I can't really call them in. You got to catch them on the first sighting. But yeah, ferns, really exciting if you're interested in forest plants. One trail I went on said, oh, there's 68 species of ferns on this trail. So I just sort of gave up trying to figure out anything, but just sort of enjoyed looking at them, looking at all the very interesting lichens and mosses, forest plants that were there, some fungus. And you just sort of hear the birds in the forest. Ended up doing a lot of hiking, really nice trail systems that they have in lots of places in New Zealand. And, you know, often I'm the only person on the trail. Beautiful weather, you pass maybe one or two people. So it didn't really feel crowded, really nice hiking. Get over to the west coast, it's a lot wetter. Forest is bigger, lusher, things like these tree ferns, everything uses their stalks to grow up, vines, ferns, lichen mosses, everything. So you can see I got a bit carried away taking pictures of all these tree ferns. This is a species pretty common on the West Coast. It's weka. It's a type of rail. It's about the size of a chicken. It's flightless, but they're really quite, they're not too concerned about people. They'll stay out of your reach, but they'll walk around here. I got I think a little video of, I would run into them on the hiking trails quite often. They're just
Billy, what's it did a thing on those,
they're
I think. Do you remember
told for a lot of
when he
stuff.
was doing New Zealand?
Peter, may I interrupt a
Yep,
minute?
yep.
I think maybe Doug and Gay, you may have your microphone on. Do you mind turning it off? I just want to make sure everybody has it off so we can hear Peter.
Sorry.
Okay, no, thank you very much. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, it's no problem. Yeah, so I was stayed at a little cabin off in the park, in the national park, and they would be out there at dawn, checking out my yard and my deck, just to make sure what they could find. Also in the forest there, these beautiful New Zealand pigeons. They're quite a bit bigger than the feral pigeons around here. They're really chunky bird, but really beautiful plumage. See them up in the canopy. This is my favorite fern, these kidney ferns that grow in the wet forests. I was really lost looking at plants, of course, because I didn't recognize anything, not even any families of stuff. So I just take pictures of things that looked interesting, try to figure them out. This actually, I think, is in the lobelia family, but it's just a mat that grows. And a lot of the coastline there on the west coast is old sea floor that's been uplifted with all the tectonic action. So all these limestone cliffs make really spectacular scenery, but they also make interesting hiking trails. It looks like, oh, it's just a nice little 3K trail, and you get onto it and you start by going straight up. So by then you're invested, you have to do the trail. These pancake rocks, which are another really famous tourist spot on the west coast. The tourist buses come by and everybody hops off for their 15 minutes of pictures and then hops back on, but it really is an interesting spot. The cabin I stayed at was just up over the hill here, and just 5 minutes down to this beach. So it was really, really tough living. These nice sandstone cliffs that are getting eroded away, and beautiful beaches. Further down the coast is even bigger, longer beaches. I was out here one morning and nobody else on the beach for 10K. And you start to get in a lot of the interesting rocks that get washed down by the rivers from all the mountain ranges, and they get highly polished on these beaches. So it's really quite pretty to.
All right, this is a lecture that is being given about the South Island of New Zealand.
Okay,
And by someone who
excuse me,
Okay,
Xenia. Oh, we just
somebody else got their mic on, I think. Yeah, maybe. Okay. Yeah, anyway, so yeah, lots of things like that. And this is still on that west coast there. Really nice hiking and beaches, as you can see the mix there. This is the New Zealand flax plant, which is so common in all kinds of habitats. It blooms in the midsummer with really spectacular flowers that the nectar drinking birds are attracted to. But this time of year, it's just the seed stalks. This rata family, which is a summer blooming, is mostly all finished, but I did find here and there a couple places where it's still blooming. Quite a spectacular, I think they call it one of them, they call it their New Zealand Christmas tree, because it blooms red right around in December. These are way up in the canopy as well. Then it crossed back through the mountain range, through a pass here. I was looking for especially the New Zealand rock wrens, which live up above the tree line. So I found this one hiking trail way up in the mountains, and it's a whole other world here up in the Alpine regions. And I realized I hadn't booked enough time up in the mountains because it's just so fascinating. So, but this trail up this river valley was, it's about an hour and a half to see these wrens. A lot of stuff had finished blooming, but a few things were still just coming to bloom, like these gentians. Here I am at the top of the trail. I think like the pass is down there where the road goes through. So I hike up to here, a bridge, and then you go, the trail ends here and you go another 200 or 300 meters. That's where you're supposed to see the wrens. So I finally did hear one and saw one slid across the rocks. So he got on the list. But yeah, it was just a gorgeous day and a gorgeous hike up here. All kinds of plants on the way that I think I told Sheila I wish there was at least somebody there that I could speculate at what we might be what we might be even seeing. So stopping and looking at all the alpine plants. I can tell you the names of things if you're really interested, but I did have to practice them a fair bit and eventually could find what most of them were. Not a whole big diversity of butterflies there, but did come across some. There's some imported monarchs I came across, but this copper family there's a number of species. I guess they're still doing work on whether they should split different species. This coastal copper and this boulder copper, two I did come across. Sundews, I was hoping to see some carnivorous things, and this is still up in the Alpine regions. Found some nice sticky sundew sections. Lots of interesting low-growing mats of things. And of course, you know, you don't get quite as harsh winters, so a lot of things that we couldn't grow here in North America or in Canada anyway. This was one little bird that was up there too, this tomtit. He did respond to fishing, which I was surprised. He came in and had a look. I think this is maybe an immature one. And then back down to the east coast again by Christchurch. There's a big, large, shallow inland lake there. And once again, really glad I brought my scope because I'd already walked a kilometer to get to the edge here through farmland. And then you can see lots of birds, but once again, a lot of them are far away. And especially if the shorebirds are out on the gravel bars, well, you know, good luck unless you have a scope. And it was foggy too the day I got there, so we're waiting for the fog to burn off. You see a lot of these swans here. These are these black swans, which are imports from Australia, sort of have, I guess, succeeded like mute swans in Ontario and are everywhere now. So there you can see lots of bird life, these pied stilts again, and I came across yet another of these hybrids with the black stilts, but hadn't seen a black stilt yet. In the estuaries and tidal flats, a lot of these oyster catchers, South Island one on the top there, and a variable oyster catcher. They're pretty common, nice to see, noisy, busy birds. Double-breasted plover, or sometimes called a dotterel there. They have different common names there and the bird books that don't all agree on what the common names are. So he's not in his breeding plumage, but I'm glad to see them, a New Zealand specialty. And then these bar-tailed godwits, which are Alaskan and Siberian shorebirds that do that amazing non-stop flight from Alaska straight down to New Zealand in one flight, and spend their winter down there. Some of them actually do stick around for the whole year, but I saw them in lots of places in the estuaries and mudflats. One kind of swallow, the welcome swallow, they're pretty common in all kinds of habitats. By this time, you know, my rental vehicle was getting a bit, no, this is, somebody had hauled this out. I think I took this picture from my nephew-in-law, who's, he used to have a Land Cruiser anyway. Down along the shore, a number of terns as well. There's Caspian terns down the bottom here that we get. And white-fronted terns, a few other kinds of terns around. And the gulls, people had been fishing on the shore and threw out their leftover bait and cleaned stuff, and the gulls went crazy. The great big ones are they're a type of blackback gull. They get called kelp gulls. Very common, once again, in all kinds of habitats. And on the beach, you know, you get the beautifully polished, really interesting rocks from all over the place, getting washed down the coast there and getting tumbled. This is a spotted shag, another type of cormorant. They're quite pretty. This is a younger one, but they have this sort of spots all over their back. And then this is another kind. These are the little pied cormorants. They're about half the size of the big ones. They come in either a dark form or a light form. This is the large pied cormorant shag. So, you know, cormorants don't have a great reputation in Ontario, but you can have lots of fun with them in New Zealand because there's so many different types, and they're in all different habitats. On some of the sandy beaches, they were down around Dunedin now. The sea lions were pretty common this time of year. This is a young one, just sort of basking during the day after eating all night. And I did stay away from the great big bulls and stuff. They're pretty massive, and I mean they weren't really interested in anything except sleeping, but still give them lots of distance. Here's a little video of a younger one, I think, walking around. Decide to walk a bit, and then no, just going to collapse here for the rest of the day. Also, this East Coast is a good place to see some of the really rare penguins in New Zealand. This is this yellow-eyed penguin. Most of the time during the day, they're out fishing in the ocean, and then you just have to be at the right spots to see them coming in the evening. This was still in the morning. I don't know whether he wasn't feeling great or he was just sort of warming up in the sun there. So I did get a good look on this beach, and it ended up being the only one I saw. So, but once again, you see the beach is just great for walking because you got them to yourselves, and they're just fantastic scenery. I took another little boat trip down around Dunedin in the big harbor that they have, and another place to see these little blue penguins. Once again, there are spots where you can watch them coming up out of the ocean at dusk, but I managed to see groups of them fishing as I was walking along some breakwaters and things like that. But you don't get a very good look. They're just up and then down again. Out at the tip by Dunedin, there's a great big volcanic spit here. There you can see the big gull colony along the bottom, lighthouse, and then all along the grassy bits is, I think, one of the only or the only mainland albatross colony. It's these royal albatross that breed on this tip here. It's of course protected up there, but going on the boat trip, you can get a look at them, and there's also a reserve up there. Another viewing place there. But so this is up on that promontory there. You can see a little albatross chick. The guide said these are the teenagers that don't have any mates yet. They just kind of hanging out. But it's a trick for them to get on and off the land because they don't walk around very well, and they have to sort of time it with the wind to be able to take off and land again. So they're much more graceful in the air, where they spend, of course, most of their lives. But yeah, they come zooming by the boat, and everybody go, whoa! So it's pretty exciting. Across the way, if you like collecting shells, I found a nice shell beach there. It was lots of fun. Getting stuff for my little grandnieces, of course, that's the excuse. But it turned out it was a surfer beach. So I was this out of place guy with my binoculars and backpack and all these really cool surfer dudes in their wetsuits but the great thing about getting older, I find, is, that you become invisible, right? I'm sure they didn't even notice that I was there on the beach. Now up on the still around Dunedin, up on the way up high elevation on the cliff side, they've created a sanctuary with heavy duty security level fencing all around, double gated way. You have to have a security code to get in, and they've aggressively got rid of all the predators within the sanctuary. It's quite a large area they've done that with, and they still continue to do regular trapping and bait to get rid of anything that might get in. But they've been able to then reintroduce some of the species that have been threatened or at risk, such as these kaka, the type of New Zealand parrot. Very full of personality, of course. Here it was rain. When they fly, they've got this nice crimson coloring underneath their wings, and they're very noisy, of course, and they're very busy, very clever, as parrots are. They also have been able to preserve some of the a reptile population. There's this green gecko here, and then down here's a tuatara, which is a leftover. It's not really related to lizards. It's a leftover from age of dinosaurs. I guess it's a family that's been around for a few 100 million years. So these are in enclosures they have, but they also do live in the wild there in the sanctuary. And another endemic skink that lives down there is about 12 inches long, so it's quite a big guy. There's also where they've also doing a breeding program for these takahe, which are a great big turkey-sized rail. They're flightless. They thought they were extinct, and then they found a population of them way up in the Alpine Tussock region, and they've had some success with breeding programs, reintroducing them into the wild, and then keeping them in these sanctuaries as well. So here's a young one. I thought he was pretty cute, but they're once again, you know, they're kind of used to people, but they're flightless and they walk around, and they've got these great big bills that they rip up the sod with. I think we've got a little video of the young one walking around, massive feet. So they live up in the Alpine grasslands where they'll just pull up great big sods and then eat the tender shoots or any insects kind of thing. But they're quite a pretty bird as well. Another specialty of the South Island, these South Island robins, similar maybe to a European robin in the way they look. Very friendly, very curious. I sat down to have my lunch here and boom, bird was right there, you know, saying, okay, what do you got? What do you got? If anything fell, boom, right on it. Follow you around the trails for a while. I think they might be a little bit interested too if you stir up insects and things like that. But they're definitely pretty bold. And another bold little bird are these fantails, which are sort of chickadee size, but with this great big tail that they flip and fan around all the time. They're very curious, fly right up into your face and accompany you on the trails and give you all kinds of advice. They're another fun bird. They're pretty much in every habitat I was in. And the real stars of the forest are these bellbirds on the left. New Zealand bellbirds, they sing a really interesting song. You can look it up online and listen to them. They were in the forest everywhere. That was the major sound you'd hear. And then the real divas of the forest are these tuis with their ridiculous little white bib that floats around there. And they sing and they know how wonderful they are. Yes. I ended up staying just outside of Dunedin and this is I think even though this doesn't really fit into most PECFN talks about talking about New Zealand, I think I can make a really tenuous connection to the county here. I stayed for about a week down near this beach and estuary, so I went, of course, a number of times to it, and there were lots of interesting things that showed up there. People taking their horses out. There's a population, I think, of about 200 egrets on the South Island here that might be a subspecies. I think they call it kotuku, as people are interested in seeing them, but after they breed in the one spot, they sort of disperse around. So one had shown up here and I saw it pretty regularly. These oyster catchers again, this masked lapwing sort of behaves similar to a killdeer, really noisy in the fields, on the beaches, things like that. And then I saw this godwit I watched for a couple of days all by itself, just coming into breeding plumage, not really hanging out with any other godwits. It was there every day, looked a little bit funny. I saw it fly once and I got a bit suspicious, but the lighting wasn't good. So I came back a number of times to watch it. I could get pretty close to it when the tide was out. And I ended up getting the telltale picture here as it took off once. This, even though it's a bit blurry, this black underwing and armpit and black tail and white tail. It's a Hudsonian godwit, which is actually an Arctic breeder, and they usually migrate down to South America. I've seen one, I think twice. I've seen one at Presqu'île as it goes through with the marbled godwits. So really excited to track this down and actually get a picture that you could actually confirm it. So I put it up on the New Zealand eBird, and people got a little bit excited, and people who are Twitchers down there came by. I noticed later on their lists too, and it was still hanging around by the time I left. So obviously, I think every once in a while they do show up in New Zealand. Maybe they get sidetracked with all those bar-tailed godwits and go off on a trip of their lifetime. We're getting down now to the southern bottom end of the island. Beautiful beaches once again. If you look to the left, you're looking down towards the Antarctic, out into the ocean there. This is also on the coast. This is a fossilized forest that had been knocked down by volcanic action a few times, and then the sea erodes away the sediments on top of it. So you got all the trunks and knocked over forest. Really interesting spot. And once again, the beaches along the southern coast there are just beautiful. And you can tell actually that I had beautiful weather the whole time. It kept following me around the island. So this is called Gemstone Beach, which I think is wonderful marketing name, but it really was interesting. They had been so polished by the wave action, and you could see the agates and jaspers and quartz and stuff like that. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, you could just spend the whole day collecting down there. Where it's not beach, you've got some rugged coastline, and this is nice hiking trails in lots of spaces all along there. This trail took you down to a balancing rock. And then I stayed at a city down at the southern end there, and great big tidal flats, once again, lagoons. And you get these royal spoonbills. Saw quite a few places around the island. And they're lots of fun to watch. We've got these paradise shell ducks. This is the male, and then the female. Everybody, as soon as the tide goes out, everybody's digging around in the mud. And then heading back up, found some another nice beach with these paua shells, I think type of abalone. Everybody's always looking for. So they were just rolling around in the surf. It was a nice day to collect a few. And then my very last day, I headed up to the plateau west of Christchurch, right in sort of the middle of the island. There was this lake here where black stilts had been reported. And I think there's only sort of that one area on the South Island where they breed, and somewhere up here, this is a gravelly bay with a river running into. So I thought, okay, last chance, last day. And boom, yeah, there was one far away across the bay, and then later on, two showed up way out in the gravel bars. So could chalk them up. They did have bands on them, so they are. I mean, they do monitor the populations very carefully. I think it's fewer than 1,000 exist. So they're of course very, very concerned about them. But so then I could relax the rest of the day, and it was beautiful hiking all around. This is on the drier side of the mountains, and perfect temperatures for hiking once again. And I had a wonderful day preparing myself for packing up in a nice 13-hour plane ride back. And Amy said she didn't think I should use the live cam of my airport flight. So I want to thank you. That's the end of the slideshow. I will. I guess if you wanted to, Jerry, are you going to moderate questions and things like that? Happy, of course, to talk about anything. I can't hear you, Jerry. I don't think you're still muted. Sorry.
Jerry, are you there?
Yeah,
Sorry.
okay, I can hear everybody now.
Okay. Yes. So from John Foster, was a small brown bird with red legs skulking around in your video one of the very few moas still extant in New Zealand?
No, it was actually a type of rail. It's quite big. It's the size of chicken, but they are flightless. I think all the moa family, like human beings have only been on the South Island for about 1,000 years, but that whole family was, as much as they can tell, the first one to sort of disappear around. There are still, I mean, the kiwis are still around, and I did try to. They're nocturnal though, so I did go out and stand out on a gravel road out in the middle of nowhere in the forest one night, trying to hear them. I may have heard one far away, but I did hear some of the owls instead. So
you mentioned stoats earlier, Peter. They would be a terrible threat to flightless birds. Or did they manage to catch them? And
oh well, there's still a problem. But like as I said, the trapping is quite intensive that goes on, and a lot of like poison bait stations that they have out, because those takahe, those great big purple and blue birds that I showed you, they were sort of recovering, and then there was a stoat outbreak, and they were knocked back, but they've sort of got that under control again. So.
Good. Balancing. So from Susan Warwick, and I so agree with you, Susan, I love the rocks. Did you collect any to bring home?
I'm a geology, but yes, I collected lots of rocks, and my brother actually, he's a geologist kind of guy. He kept asking me, so I did find some fossils that I could bring back from. But yeah, my rock collection, I think I went through it 4 times and cut it in half every time because I thought this is just crazy. I was doing everything with carry-on luggage, so I had to be very careful about what I could bring, and it was quite, of course, it's the heaviest thing you can collect. So yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Only bring so many.
So Myrna, you had your hand up. I just unmuted you.
Yes, you said they had a bad storm, Peter. I missed this.
Oh, that was on the North Island just before I left in February. A big cyclone went through, tropical storm, and they had lots of flooding, landslides on the north, but that was in the North Island. And
I see.
they were still recovering from that when I arrived, but the
Wow.
airport was fine, and it was just some of the transportation was backed up.
And did you say an earthquake?
So the earthquake was back, there was about, what was it, about 10 years ago now?
Oh,
There was quite a
okay.
major one in Christchurch, centered in Christchurch, a lot of destruction on the South Island. So yeah, people are still talking about it.
Thanks.
Thank you for that. So from John Foster, what is the duck with black and white wing underside that you had a flock picture of beside your Hudsonian godwit photo?
Yeah, that's the New Zealand gray teal. It's the only type of teal there. Well, there are a few out on the islands. New Zealand has some Antarctic islands. There are some similar ones. Since they're not really migratory on the different islands, they've sort of really developed into separate species. And the ones out on the islands, some of the teals are actually, they don't fly. And sometimes they get the New Zealand one, the Australian ones as accidentals, but those were the gray teal, their type of teal, very common around the estuaries.
Okay, thanks, Peter. And again from John, did you get a look at any fossils or any sense of the age of the rocks?
I did in a few places. As I said, my brother is keen on fossils. A lot of places, as I said, to look at those are where the shoreline has been uplifted from the old seabeds. So a lot of stuff in a lot of marine fossils. I didn't find a lot of good collecting sites though, but there are some good rock collecting clubs there. I sort of had to just focus on birds and plants. I did find one place to collect some marine fossils, which I did for my brother, and that was fun. But yeah, I guess there's a lot of the geology is a bit younger on the South Island. I mean, relatively speaking, although there are some older spots that go back, to like the age of the dinosaurs, back to the Cretaceous and Jurassic age. But a lot of the shoreline, the coastal stuff, is younger than that. And then, of course, the central mountains are all sort of being still uplifted.
Thank you. And from John, did you see any podocarp or Nothofagus trees?
Yes, the West Coast forests, actually, that's what they're dominated by. Those are sort of two families. They call them like the southern beech family. They call them beeches, that one family. They're quite common through there. And then the podocarps are very, very ancient family of trees. A lot of them have they're cone bearing, but they're evergreen, like broadleaf kind of things, or small needles. But yeah, they were quite fascinating. But a lot of them have, Maori names for their common name, and I would just get bogged down. I would read the signs, thought I had it, but then I go into the forest again and it'd just be completely foreign to me. But anyway, beautiful, interesting forests, yes.
Thanks. And from Jennifer, wonderful. We all agree. And David, to everyone, thanks for the talk. Looks like a lovely trip. Susan Banks, how did you know where to go in New Zealand? Did you research online or did you get some tips from other travelers?
I did do a lot of research ahead of time. As I said, the New Zealand eBird, similar to how you can look up the hot spots for birds. And although, you know, birding just isn't as big a deal down there. In fact, the whole time I was there, I don't think I ran into any New Zealand birders. And often most of the birding sites I went to, I was the only person there, or I was the anomaly with my binoculars and scope. So in that way it was nice, but I didn't really get to talk to too many birders. But you can use eBird to look at where the hotspots are. And the tourism, it's very good online, like for looking where trails and access points are. That's really easy to find online. And there's lots of trail system all over New Zealand. So anywhere, anytime I just wanted to go hiking, that was easy. Some places I sort of found out while I was there. I would do things a little bit differently, of course. But yeah, I researched a lot ahead of time.
I have to ask this, did you see any hobbits?
You know, I very assiduously avoided anything to do with Lord of the Rings or hobbits, although they do use it for their tourism, of course. But anytime that music would start going through my head, I just say, no, not gonna go there. So yes, I avoided all the high extreme sports places like bungee jumping and hella skiing and whatever, and Lord of the Rings. Those are the two things I did not
Wise.
participate in.
And from John, thanks for sharing your journey. Magnificent. And I don't see any more questions in the chat. And if anyone else has their hand up, I can't see you on my screen. Oh, here we go.
Oh, no avatar people, no.
No, you okay? No blue people. So
Yeah.
I just one question. Did you mention any birds of prey? I don't think
Oh,
you did.
that's very interesting. Actually, it would be very interesting there because, I mean, very easy because there's never really any doubt. There is the swamp harrier, which is very similar to our northern harrier, and it's almost everywhere. Very common raptor. The only other raptor is the New Zealand falcon, and it's more a forest bird. I looked for it in a number of places, but it's kind of rare and just localized. So they're very different in shape and behavior. So if you wouldn't be troubled at all by seeing raptors, you can look up and go, oh, it's a harrier, you know, right away. But the harriers were very common. I just never managed to get a picture of them. But they, behave. I guess, I don't know, I'm speculating, but maybe, without that kind of initial rodent population that, that often raptors sort of depend on. There's small birds, but they're living in the canopy in the forest. So there's nothing like eagles or things like that. Eagles and hawks.
Well, I think we're done with the questions. So it's I'd now like to thank you on behalf of everybody. It's pure serendipity that we got to hear your marvelous presentation. And what a trip. You saw so many things, and I feel I'll never get to New Zealand, I know that, but I feel greatly enriched by your talk. So thank you very much, and terrific photos.
If you go with somebody else, because you need a driver, you need to be able to look at the scenery. It's just
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. I'll remember that.
Yeah, don't go alone. Yeah.
So thank you on behalf of all of us. And we will be, John has another one. Yes, John. Oh, are you just putting your thumb up to say good work? Yeah.
You too.
Yeah, good work. We all say good work. We will have a gift for you, Peter, which we will get to you somehow. And I know it's one that you'll love. So thanks again. Amy, over to you.
Great. Thanks. Thank you, Peter. That was terrific. Yeah, we're all clapping. Except I get to make noise. That was really great and really interesting. I wrote down 3/4 of the birds. And fortunately, actually, I should stop it. Stop recording.